Bernie Sanders took Donald Trump to school on the fundamentals of American democracy, delivering a civics lesson so sharp it left the former president visibly fuming. Sanders, in his signature Brooklyn accent and impassioned gestures, dismantled Trump's claim of unchecked presidential spending powers, reminding him that America operates under a system of checks and balances, not a monarchy. With each constitutional fact Sanders laid down, particularly Article 1, which grants Congress control over federal spending, Trump's face reportedly reddened, resembling a malfunctioning computer struggling to process an error message. Sanders coolly countered Trump's authoritarian tendencies, warning that bypassing Congress today could lead to more dangerous overreaches tomorrow, painting a vivid picture of a leader recklessly barging into a constitutional crisis like a horror movie character ignoring all the warning signs. The Vermont senator's breakdown of executive limitations was so methodical that it made Trump's disbelief almost comical, his reaction likened to someone discovering Diet Coke isn't actually healthy. Sanders didn't need theatrics. The power of basic constitutional principles spoke for itself, leaving Trump visibly shaken, his usual bravado crumbling under the weight of undeniable legal reality. Bernie Sanders, with his signature rumpled suit and wild hair, schooled the self-proclaimed business genius Donald Trump on how the government actually works, a scene as amusing as a grandfather explaining to a teenager why their get-rich-quick scheme is doomed to fail, experience versus ego, wisdom versus willfulness. While Trump was still licking his constitutional wounds, Bernie swiftly turned his attention to an even more absurd situation in the Senate, where Russell Vought, Trump's nominee to oversee the federal budget, seemed to believe presidents could simply ignore Congress when spending money, an idea as ridiculous as hiring a football referee who thinks players should call their own penalties. During a tense budget committee hearing, Bernie made it clear how preposterous it was for Senate Republicans to consider confirming someone who essentially dismissed their constitutional role, likening it to hiring a babysitter who believes children should raise themselves. With the confidence of a man who had been battling these issues long before Trump was a reality TV star, Bernie predicted the all-too-familiar partisan divide. Democrats would oppose Vought while Republicans would eagerly vote to make themselves irrelevant, a move akin to chickens electing Colonel Sanders to run the henhouse. As Bernie systematically exposed the contradictions, the room's tension grew thicker than Trump's makeup, while the former president reportedly turned various shades of orange-red upon hearing Bernie's scathing critique. Sanders wasn't just criticizing Vought, he was highlighting Trump's entire philosophy: if it doesn't serve him, it doesn't matter, warning that this nomination was part of a larger erosion of democratic checks and balances. While Americans worried about gas prices and grocery bills, Bernie sounded the alarm on a far greater cost: the potential dismantling of constitutional order. The constitutional dust had barely settled before Bernie took aim at Trump's escalating legal war against the free press, pointing out how the former president wielded lawsuits like a toddler throws toys, a full-blown assault on the First Amendment designed to silence critics through financial intimidation. Listing Trump's legal battles against media outlets, Bernie made it clear this wasn't just another rant but a dire warning about democracy crumbling under the weight of authoritarian tactics. Connecting these lawsuits to Trump's broader disregard for democratic norms, Sanders painted a chilling picture of a leader who treated the Constitution as merely a suggestion, much like those employees must wash hands signs in restaurant bathrooms, an amusing comparison with a deadly serious implication. Bernie Sanders warned about Trump's dangerous strategy of using lawsuits to intimidate the press, creating a chilling effect where journalists and their employers might hesitate to criticize him for fear of financial ruin. By suing media outlets, Trump isn't just punishing past critics but actively shaping a climate where future reporters self-censor, fearing massive legal costs. Sanders likened Trump's tactics to a schoolyard bully who not only punishes you for speaking up but also threatens your entire family to ensure silence. Trump's response was predictably explosive, furiously posting lawsuit threats on Truth Social, oblivious to the irony of his actions. His simultaneous portrayal of himself as both a victim and aggressor, complaining about unfair media treatment while threatening to sue critics into oblivion, highlights the absurdity of his stance. Sanders underscored the unprecedented nature of these attacks on press freedom, contrasting Trump's behavior with past presidents who, despite media conflicts, recognized that suing critics was undemocratic. The real danger isn't just to major news outlets, but to smaller publications and independent journalists who might shy away from exposing the truth for fear of financial ruin. By intimidating the press, Trump ensures lies gain an advantage over truth, a direct threat to democracy. Sanders' message was clear. The fight against authoritarianism isn't just about exposing corruption but empowering Americans to take action. With slim margins in Congress, Sanders reminded voters that their voices matter, urging them to pressure representatives against policies that benefit billionaires at the expense of the working class. His direct call to action, encouraging Americans to stand up, make calls, and demand change, was a stark contrast to Trump's fear-driven tactics. While Trump was busy raging on social media, Sanders was arming everyday people with the knowledge that they could fight back, a realization that likely made Trump even more furious.